Well, okay. Overall, you do a lot of interesting stuff, but like not very bad and last person in tech should be good enough to like bring you something interesting. So about this speech, I want to talk like I'm gonna first describe the problem that we face in our company, and afterwards I bring you like some features, not like features you hear in like how it's nice and cool to use ChatGPT, but like technical features that we used for our particular solution. And then in the end, like I present solution we managed to get like to solve our problem that we got in the company. Again, like this topic is going to be like about ChatGPT API usage. I guess it's like advanced usage. Maybe like if there is some machine learning specialist in the group, probably like sometimes it can be used, sometimes not. Like I hope they won't throw some tomatoes on me. I'm not machine learning like engineer, like to bring you some very deep insights of how ChatGPT works, like on the background, but still, I managed to find some interesting things about it. If you see I'm doing or saying something wrong, or like you can have or share some knowledge, or like you see something that I can use to improve something I'm saying here, feel free to share. I will be very curious to hear some thoughts as well. Um, so the problem, the company I'm working with, it's called Teaching Strategies. It's a US-based company, and the main goal of this company is to teach preschool children in US. They don't have kind of like particular program for this group of children, and that is why there are a lot of companies that prepare their own materials, and then they sell these materials to some schools and some teachers and some like government structures, so they can teach them like in kind of like a scheduled way. um, the big problem is we have a lot of English content, and company always tries to support Spanish language as well. And for every content they develop, they try to translate it in Spanish. And the problem is like, of course, like they do this manually. So they have a department on translators, and they try to do their best to translate all the content we have. And well, it worked up to this moment, but again, like it still requires a lot of time, some money, like a lot of effort. They do some new partnerships with new company that provide extra content as well, and this content has to be translated into Spanish again. And like this is what we have now. In the future, they plan to extend into Arabic language, and this is going to be a new challenge for them to achieve. Because of that, like the problem is like the content, and we need to translate it. And the biggest thing is we need to translate it right, not like you are a professional teacher, please translate it to me and make it look nice. Uh, Sometimes it works, but for example, in Spanish language, like you can have questions, you can have in our database structure, you can have some content with markup, you can have some like technical names that shouldn't be translated. Also, like sometimes, from my understanding, like Spanish language is like gender related language. So if you want to be like extremely polite, like which is what we have like now, you need to translate it properly with extra understanding of the context, and provide the translations with explicitly like understanding how to do this like completely gender neutral language. And that is why like it's a lot of things to know. And most of the time, like our translation like translators in the office, they do know that context, but again, they don't have a list of rules. They have their feeling, they have their understanding how to do this. They can kind of like teach you how to translate it properly, but again, it's very difficult to scale, it's very difficult to optimize, and work with this like requires a lot of time and effort for the product overall. So yes, like we have new partnerships, we have a company that want to integrate with us, we have new schools that gonna join us soon, and again we have some legacy content our database that haven't translated yet, and this is what we need to accomplish as well. On top of that, we've developed a CMS system on around this content that will allow editors to insert it and work with it even further, which makes things even more dynamic. So they want to see this content, they want to adapt it, they want to edit it. And the more we go there, like the more we understand that we need some automated system that will help us to work with this in a little bit easier, faster, more convenient way. We tried to think about a solution to this problem, and like as kind of like normal engineers, developers, the first thing we like try to say like, okay, let's try Google Translate. Like this doesn't work at all. Let's try to go and find something on the market. Like there is a tool called DeepL, like very advanced, cool translation service. It does job well. It provides translations over PDF documents, etc., etc. We tried it on like our specific use cases. We tried it like with markup, with some branding names inside the content. Like again, like it still requires post-processing. It still requires edits. It still requires proofreads. It's still like it's not bad. It's kind of like in the middle of something, but you still need to do like extra work on that. If you just take raw ChatGPT and like just use it like for raw translations, again, like it does the job, like our editors, like and product owners, like they are not happy at all with this. But as a developer, like you are sitting here, like, and you need to solve the job, and like manager asks you to do something, and like you just like need to come with a solution. And here where like my topic comes, how to solve this problem in some nice and workable manner. The first thing that I'm trying to research and like understand, like if we can use some machine learning model, like probably commercial model, like or something that's available on the market already, that we can just put our data into it and like ask it, okay, like use this data and try to translate it for us and like make it look nice and make it look well. But for example, ChatGPT is like I guess all you know that, but just in case you can't affect ChatGPT database, it has knowledge cutoff date and like other commercial tools like Gemini and like other AIs, so they mostly have the same stuff. You can download like some open source models and try to play with them, but it will require extra time, extra knowledge, extra investment into it. And our team in particular, like and management, didn't want to spend that much time on that. So we still continue to work on this ChatGPT as we already have subscription inside the company and we could work with it. And on the other hand, it do provide a lot of features on top of that. So the question was if we can make it work right for us. What we came into next was like our understanding that as we can't affect like prompt to ChatGPT itself, like knowledge itself, we can try to do some workarounds with ChatGPT prompt. And in like kind of like it was very interesting to see, but actually like it does a huge huge work. I tried to use like links. I can send the presentation later, like in case you're interested in some slide, you can play with it. But the important things to understand is like ChatGPT, like maybe other like popular AIs. If we're talking about API usage, they have several roles. You can see them and play with them like mostly like in Playground or like using their API, or like you can try to like you can see them in the UI of normal ChatGPT, but still like it's a little bit hidden. So ChatGPT has system role, a user role, and assistant role, and combining all of those together like makes what we call prompt engineering. So what you can say is like you can tell ChatGPT that, for example, you are coding assistant, like, or you like some translator, or like you are some guy that do some work for you. Then you put your like user message, and then like you specify some examples that ChatGPT can take a look at. and understand that this is how you should reply or should like work with. And this is where like our main idea came from, and like how to use this approach for the translations itself. Um, what interestingly learned as well is like if you provide a lot of different questions and like answers to it, you can do a thing like called few-shot learning, right? That helps you to like affect behavior in a very strong way to the format like how GPT responds to you. Um, Very last thing like I wanted to say about ChatGPT is like about context window. I guess like a majority of AI system has it at the moment. And the thing is like you can't bring all your PDF files, or you can't bring like all the documents you have into the system and say like work with it, handle it, and give me like a nice response. Um, what you need to remember is like every ChatGPT model has context window, and this context window like cuts all the interaction you have with ChatGPT, like if you go beyond that. So it means that you need to plan and you need to understand how many data you're gonna send to ChatGPT. Also, you need to understand like how big response gonna be. So altogether, it worked well for your particular use case. I just brought some like data about like what context windows like different model has. For example, ChatGPT 5 has 4,000 like tokens, GPT-4 1 million, GPT-o4 mini like 200. And if you already know about this, like this column makes no sense, but like if you don't, there is kind of like a correlation like between symbols like and tokens, but it's not one to one. So this is kind of like just for like some kind of like visualization that 2000, like if you use, for example, model GPT-5 or like model O4 mini, then you have like 2000 tokens context window, which means that you can send like around 400 pages A4 document to it, so it can handle it at least properly without like kind of things that will go like bad, like if you get some response. And like one more thing to be aware of, if you're trying to use some API, like ChatGPT API, or like I guess probably all of them have something similar. They have like API usage tier, and important thing to know like that they have limitation called token per minutes, which if you try to automate some of your approaches, it will cut your request, and like you will handle with things like retries, sleeps, and everything for your request, which is also like something that you need to be aware. So this is kind of things like we went through trying to understand how and what we can use for our particular use case, and about the approach itself. So we found that we can take a database of our examples where we have our like English version and Spanish version, and we can try to collect all the rules that like modern editor uses to translate those examples, and we try to put those rules into like a short list of exact rules how certain person should translate the content. And when we use it like for 100 rows, we bought like 10 rules collected as a summary. When we went through like all our database, like not all, like more and more records, we've got like list further and further, but still like we understood that like if we run it through all our database, we can collect all the rules of like all the translations rules we have in the database. So this list can help us not even like in the application of ChatGPT usage, but even like for new editors when they are gonna work with the documents to understand how they should work with a particular field in our like database and how they should translate it properly. The interesting thing, like because like one fields have HTML in it. One fields are like for what you do queries, like for children. Other fields like represent some different text. It's interesting to understand that we can repeat the same process like of gathering translation rules for different fields, and this will allow us to uh, generate like proper set of rules like for every type of content we have in our database, which already like, I mean, it sounds simple and it looks simple and it is simple, but it's already like very nice push for editors like to work with. It's already like later we used just this simple approach to create a custom ChatGPT with just like this knowledge, and they already help it. And this custom ChatGPT help our editors to boost their working process drastically. Just my thoughts outside of that. When you try to solve math problems, when you try to solve like programming problems, if you have a list of knowledge in your database, you can just use this simple approach like to aggregate and to write down some rules, and you're already like being able to have some list of like things that you're working with already, which is like huge benefit like up at this point. And this is like just the diagram that if you repeat the same thing and run it like across the whole database, it would mean that in the very final end, you will get aggregated list of all translation rules, which you can then save and you can then benefit for your next steps. So this is just an example. So when you go to all the records, you can put all of these like into some kind of like list of knowledge that describes how all your rules in database work. And then the next thing which we figure out and understood how to use is vectors and vectors embeddings. In simple words, the way I understand it, vectors allow you to take a content, like some piece of content you have in database, and convert it into vector representation of the same content. So it's going to be just like kind of numbers if you take a look over here. So it's going to be just numbers that represent like the vector direction for your text. If you repeat, like if you do a call to like ChatGPT already has vectors, like you can use different tools for this particular purpose. But the thing is, like if you take some content, like some English, let me just grab some example that is on like a big screen. If you take some data, like all the children are welcome here, and you convert it into vector representation of it, now you are able to save both the English version of it, like ID of this record in your database, and vector representation of this data, and you can put all of this into your vector database, which will allow you to do a thing like search, clustering, recommendations. But in our particular use case, it was search, which we used just like one step back, which we used like for one step back, like so. If you take the content, convert it into vectors, save it into database, and repeat it for all your data that you're trying to translate, you will get a huge data set that you can then later use for your prompting into ChatGPT. So this is just to get English variant, use ChatGPT vectors, save vector to database, repeat for all your database records. I can just like get back to it like on question just to make it a little bit cleaner. And now what we can do is like when we want to translate some text, because just give me a second. Because this slide looks very simple and like probably like not very informative, and maybe in this particular example it looks not very nice. But the thing is, like if you put all of those translation rules that you grab like here, and like you get the whole translation rules dataset from the whole database, and you put it like as a kind of like a prompt as a part of your instructions, and then when you're trying to translate a new record, you do a database vector database query, into like any database that supports vectors, and you say, give me like 50 records or like 100 records that are similar to the prompt, like to the English record I want to translate, this will allow you to take the most relevant, the most closest examples that you have already in your database. And using this kind of thing, like the reason it's called, in my understanding, RAG is because when you try to translate a new record, you do an extra work. So you go into vector database, you search for similar records, you extract those records like and put into your like temporal context. You collect it as like a few short learning examples here. So you put English record and Spanish translation example, and you can extend it into like hundreds or like 200 records, depending on your uh, context window which you have. Um, Putting this together like with the user message that describes translation rules and adding like a system role that says that you like translate, like you are translator, like you are assistant, like you are the guy who helps us as a company to convert text into the like Spanish variant. With all of those examples, with all of those rules, allowed us to bring like a very nice result. Just give me a second. Yeah, which like together like solves a problem like of human like translations. While it can sound maybe simple when you listen or like talking about it, to come to this approach like for us like as engineers was kind of like a challenge. And what I can say that funny thing when we implemented this thing as a part of our like CMS system, when you have English content, like there is a button like translate it into Spanish with AI. Um, when we got some results and we came back to our translator, they told us that this is kind of like a text that they wrote, not like AI did. And they just told us that you are showing us like not the AI result, but like something they did before. So they couldn't distinguish like the AI solution with like the work they did like previously that we stored in our database. So, and that's kind of like a short story. I think I just like managed to fit in like just enough in time. And I skipped through these slides. So the thing is like when you try to save data into vector database, you can use like something very like kind of like popular and hyped, like things like Pinecone. However, like if you're in the company and company already has ChatGPT subscription, ChatGPT API provides vector storage, and like you can use Open API and like their own API. So you don't need to develop like your own infrastructure for that. So you can just use their storage and like use similarity search and search by data, and like all of this can be integrated. If you guys like me, we kind of like had Postgres already, so we just installed a Postgres vector extension to our database, and this allowed us to benefit from our data and like do vector search within our database without even like adding a new layer of like infrastructure to it. And altogether, this helped to provide very decent result for the problem. It's kind of like, I don't know. I hope it was clear. Like, if not, like, feel free to ask questions. I'll just get back to the slides and try to explain them. Yep.
Thank you for the presentation, and that was lovely. So, I mean, from the system, it's quite interesting. I do feel like there are a couple of things that could go wrong. I don't know if you experienced that during development phase, but things like the context window and then the rate limiting, which is very important too as well.
Item and what? Second?
Context with rates limiting.
Bits.
Rates limiting.
Rate limiting.
Right.
Throttling.
Rate limiting.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. So did you have issues with context switching and then getting
Yes.
throttled as well?
Yes, it's actually like a very good question, and like I struggled with this for a while. And the reason I put this slide is it allows you to understand like the context window size. So this tool, it's actually like from platform OpenAI. It's called Tokenizer. I guess they use the same tool inside the company to understand the context window size. I can be wrong, like don't judge too strong on that. But again, it allows you to understand kind of like the width of your context request. And you can predict, like roughly, you can predict how long your request gonna be to the model. So at this point, you can understand like what you're working with and like how to handle it properly. So it means like in practical case, it means that when we've got, just give me a second. When we've got like summarized translations like rules result, it was like two like pages of like two A4 pages, like it's around like that was, and it takes not that many data, so it's fine. So our prompt was like good enough, and then we just like try to add examples, and we know the length of the examples. We try to put it as much like as it like fits the request itself, and the model provides you decent result. So from like just try and go approach, we figure out that it's like about 50 or like 70 examples that fit exactly like in a context window for the model we're using. However, like you're right, and like I have another slide for this particular purpose. um, this thing is like so annoying. When you work with the model, like you see this kind of like nice picture. They say if you use GPT-4.1, you have a context window of million, and you understand it's like 300 examples of related queries, and it's like so good. Like it provides so nice results when you play with it online. But then we try to automate it like with API usage, and the thing is, like on API there are different rules. So when you're trying to do requests, if you exceed 30,000 tokens per minute, like for the tier one, you just like get like cut, and like you have an issue with the request. So you need to limit it very down to very small amount, and work on that up until you get some decent tier to work with. And yeah, like you have a bad response, you like sleep, you wait another minute, you do another request, you do another like 30,000 tokens, just 30, yeah, 30,000 like tokens. You like, again wait, again retry, and keep going. The good thing is, because like you can do this offline, you don't like, the main thing is like to prepare all the data before actual user makes the request for particular type of data they want to translate. And this means that you can do this in batch, you can do this offline, you can do this like somewhere like before that. So you can prepare all the data, and then like once you do the actual translation request, you can extract all of that like using vectors as a similar data and put it into translation. But at this point, you can still limit it to fit the tier your company is having at the moment. But yeah, like tier one is really like difficult to work with. Um,
Yeah.
what else I wanted? Yeah, like, but you need to struggle. Like, I mean, anyway, like you can get a decent response from API. You understand that its rates limit response. You just add exception for that. You handle it, you retry it, and like keep going. Yeah, the only thing like I don't have a slide, but actually good to mention, maybe if you are not API, ChatGPT API user, they do have batch API, and they do have it's called like lazy API. I forgot the name. So you can do the request and wait for it like without like direct response, but like it's queued to the background, and because of that, it's much cheaper to handle them. So we just like for just in case.
Yeah, I think that was where I got worried a little bit, where you can actually sleep for a couple of seconds or minute, right? And then make the request again
Yeah.
in case you've gone beyond the token. But in between that, you get worried about context as well. Because at a time where you're actually delaying the request a bit because you've gone beyond the limit, and then you could lose the context window at that point. So from system design point of view, which is like, then what happens when you lose the context? It feels more like you have to start, you know, from Kikini all over again.
Um, yes, it's actually also like a good mention about context window. The thing is, like everything that goes, ChatGPT has like a modern API that allows you to have like a request ID, which is like stored, and you have that all the time during the conversation. So it remembers like everything you sent to it in the past, and it tries to keep it like so. Like the new records go like below, and like this 100,000 like context window goes with the new content you sent. So the old data just getting like lost, right, in the terms of conversation. But when you do like direct API call, you can provide all the data within it, and you can tell the model everything like you have. So you can tell all the instructions, all the rules, all the prompts, examples, and everything. And at this point, you're still able to understand how big the context window is. And if it's small enough, like to fit all the rules, it goes through API and it goes through model limitations. So it goes well. I mean, you'd like the amount of time you wait doesn't affect the model's context window. It just like the size of data you send during the payload request. I guess that's probably like the way I understand it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. Yeah, regarding the context window as well. So you showed the examples when the like translation examples were like pretty short. So it was just like one sentence, couple of sentences. And the question to your source data, have you translated some like bigger, I don't know, 50 pages text or like?
Yeah, the good question as well. But the answer is in database, like we had many records, and like each record like has kind of like different fields of data, like what you do family. It's like different columns in database. And the thing is, like what we try to do, we try to make a call for every field. Like we don't do this like in bulk for translate me everything. We learned like you prepared examples and like unified translation rules for every column we have, and then like we tried and translated every particular field separately. It sounds like a little bit more costly solution, but it allows us to tailor every field for particular purpose and translate it as good. Like, I mean, the main challenge is to get perfect translation. That is why we made it very granular and try to translate it like in very small um, text size.
Yeah, I'm asking because like, you know, if you have like a normalized data with a short sentences and like a short, just like couple of words, they could lose meaning. Like for example, in a natural text, you have like a big context. You have like, for example, like 10 sentences.
Yeah.
And depending on the like couple of previous sentences, you can have like a different word meaning, like which is you're trying to translate now.
Yeah.
So most likely that not that wasn't the case for your database.
Like the way we tried to solve it was those examples. So because of like this vector approach, repeat the whole process. Was about chunk. It was merge existing rules, and for the vectors, we like collected all our English to Spanish like translations. We vectorized them and put them into database. And now when you want to translate a small text of data, we get into our vector database and ask, give me like 100 similar data to the one I want to translate. And the vector database, because of the vector search, they provide us the most related data. I mean, it's actually a very good search, like, and it's probably make things sense to talk about it a little bit later, maybe in some different context. But the thing is, vector database allows you to have 50 most related data to the one you have now. And you can use this, like, because you have the text and you have IDs, you can extract from the database English to Spanish translations. And when you want to translate something, you can put 50 records of very similar texts with examples how to translate them to Spanish. And this allows the model by using those examples to give you like very similar to that translation, if you see what I mean.
No, I don't think so. I think the question was about like so you have this big chunk of text.
Yes.
Yes. You have your rules.
Right.
Like in a system prompt you have not the system, like in examples you have the rules part.
Right.
This rules part is generated with the vector database coordinates. Because you have like you should put like relevant examples there.
Like roles and examples, let's call them two different things.
Yeah. Okay. Let's imagine you have examples. Yeah. You use the vector database to put examples there.
Yes.
But you still have like a super large text, which is like bigger than your context window. So what you will do in that
I
case?
mean, like if we have more examples than context window.
Not more examples than context window, but the text you are trying to translate.
Oh, I see.
The source data you're trying to translate. So you have not like a couple of sentences in English, but you have like a big text, for example, book.
Yeah, yeah. Well, with that one, it's a little bit more problematic because of like this limitation of API calls. Yeah, because of like, for example, 30,000 like API like token limit per minute. But brought the same, just like the amount of examples and yeah, just the different amount of examples because it affects the query. Examples becomes bigger. The context windows like for these examples like got shorter and shorter. In cases like where we had big columns to translate, we tried to use like maybe 30 instead of 100 examples or like 20, you know, like it was still good enough, to be honest. Like it was still good enough. In majority of cases it was very similar to the results our editors did, and it was sometimes only different in some very specific words or specific like things, but overall the result was still quite good. I think that at some point we will get to tier 2, and at this moment like you would be able to get more examples and like more data to work with. But yeah, like with this kind of thing, like the only like the problem is the amount of roles, the amount of examples you provide, and like the kind of like model, the model skill you use. Like if you use mini, it's gonna be a little bit dumber like than 4.1, for example. That's the only case, and I really like the model 4.1 just because the context window it has, because like it allows you to provide so much more like data and examples to work with.
Yes, thank you.